instrument that we'll be using as well. So we'll be gathering PM10 as a precursor for the toxic metals, but we also want to get the PM 2.5 information as well. So that's what the continuous PM 2.5 monitor will be doing for us. Next slide, please. All right, so here's where we are. These are the sites we've chosen. We've looked at it, aerially. We've looked at it from the ground level. All these sites have met all the siting criteria. So the first one I'm showing is the Achievable Dream Tennis Academy. I show this one first because this is going to be the multi-pollutant site. And I tried to draw a picture of where we plan to put it. We see that there is power on the site that we can access. We try to make sure that we're as consistent as possible with whatever building and other restrictions there are in these sites. So this one right here, again, will be the multi-pollutant site. And it's a very good site, actually. Go ahead, next. All right, now this is 39th and Marshall Street. We were just there today. Obviously, he's got a good source of power. That picture is kind of small, but that shows you the distance from the power line to where we're going to site the monitor. There is an elevated highway there, 664. We're far enough away from that based on the siting criteria that will not be problematic. There's also a rail line on the south side of that property. Again, we're far enough away from it based on siting criteria to get a good sample. All right, next. All right, this is right across, what is the name of that facility? Haber? Is it Haber, John? Heber, okay, Heber, yeah, so that's right near the facility. It's a good site. My understanding of what goes on at that facility will not impact the PM10 sampling. We're going to keep our eye on this site. When you pick a site, you also select what's called a scale of representativeness, and we'll have to keep our eye on this. If it does look like we're getting impacted nearby, we may have to shrink the scale of representativeness for this. In other words, the sample that we're getting there may not be as representative of a larger area as we think it was when we first set it up, or thought it was. Next slide, please. All right, this is, I'm pretty excited about this site because it is in the middle of a community. We were able to go through and demonstrate through measurement that we can meet all the siting criteria there. We've got power right nearby. So, we're trying to get something right in the middle of the community that will allow us to get a sample of air where you have the maximum, the largest potential population impact that we can get. And that's what this site is intended to do. Next. All right, and the last one we'll show here is 18th Street and Terminal Avenue. That is the site or source specific site. It is right outside the fence line. You can see the circle represents the monitor where we plan to put it, and then the coal operations. It is within 100 meters of the coal operations, so we're doing the best we can to get as close as possible. Okay. Next slide, please.
So let's stop there, guys. And if anybody has any questions for Chuck about any of that siting information, now would be a good time.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, questions?
Are you taking pictures of the coal dust site itself? Operating a giant machine that.
Oh, those are just overhead views to give people an idea of distance.
Yeah, yes, but presumably when they're very active dumping the coal,
yeah,
you might expect a lot of action.
Very true.
It might be just curious if they let you put up a web camera,
sure,
a game camera.
Yeah, again, we will look at that. This is a PM10 only site, so that ability may be limited, but we'll certainly look at that. I think that's something that we need to look into.
Well, I mean, with those giant machines just dumping stuff. If the particular count goes up with, 2 minutes after you dumping, be curious to see that.
Sure, we'll take a look at that.
And then we have a question in the chat from Sally. Can you tell us the timeline for this monitoring?
Well, we're going to monitor for a minimum of 18 months at each site. In terms of installation, there's a lot of contributors to the timeline that we really have no control over. Probably the biggest one is the procurement process for the electrical contractor that we're going to have to hire to do all this. So in terms of a specific date, hard to nail that down right now, but certainly once they're installed and operating, we're going to do 18 months of sampling at each site as a minimum. Does that get to your question?
Can you ballpark installation? At this time, we can't. We are cautious of giving a ballpark because we don't want to create any false expectations. And at this time, we just really, because of all the factors Chuck has kind of talked through with contracting, we're not exactly sure yet. As soon as we are sure, the community will be the first to know. And like Chuck said, the monitoring period will be 18 months regardless.
Yeah, and just as a side note, I don't know how much you heard about these issues with supply chain. Well, they're real, and some of the hardware that we've been purchasing for this project have taken longer, far longer than expected, at least based on historical averages. So that's another difficulty here. We just don't know what kind of impact that will have on anything we put into the procurement process. So we're a little bit hesitant to nail down a specific date. I will say this, as soon as we can possibly make it happen.
Other questions about siting? Again, to be clear, you're welcome to ask questions later too, if you think of it. And if you happen to be watching the recording, please feel free to reach out if you have questions as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so the next part of our meeting is talking about future meeting formats. So in 2022, we had 3 community-wide meetings that were planned by DEQ. The first meeting we had in April was at Achievable Dream Academy in the gymnasium. The July and October meetings, we were very kindly hosted at the Seawald of Scott Center. However, you guys are aware that that is currently under construction. And so tonight we are actually at the Downing Gross Cultural Arts Center, and shout out to the city for making that happen for us. We really appreciate it. We, moving forward this year, are thinking about switching up that format a little bit. And some of the things we did last year to start towards that were one-on-one meetings with community members and neighborhood groups as requested. And then regular online check-in meetings that we have with an organizers group. We do those every second Friday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Anybody is welcome to join. You just have to let me know and I'll put you on the list. And so those have been a great opportunity for folks to just ask questions and get updates on the project. And we want to make sure that we're being cognizant of people's time, of people's preferred formats, of timing that would be preferable for folks. And so we wanted to kind of open up that conversation for what that might look like moving forward this year. And if you wouldn't mind, next slide. So what do we want to see this year in 2023? And feel free to shout things out. So to start it off, what do we think about the hybrid meeting format? In all the meetings we had last year were solely in person. Do we like the option of having a hybrid meeting?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. So hybrid, from my perspective too, kind of expands the opportunities, right, for folks. We have a lot going on, everybody's busy. So this kind of affords a little bit more of opportunity that doesn't require travel or those kinds of things. So hybrid is good. Do we feel like hybrid is the preferred so that people can come in person as well? Or do we feel like online is a better format?
I have a question.
Sure.
How many people are online?
There are
Currently 17.
so different than how many people in the room, right? But I think that's shifted. We had quite a few people in attendance in April and July in person last year. So I'm not sure what the answer is there. If it's an opportunity, maybe that's more targeted. Some feedback that we have gotten from folks is that coming to where folks are regularly might be more effective than having you guys come to us. And that's certainly something that we're willing to do.
What about regularly going to online, and if you get some sense that people from the local community are willing to come, then call a real, like a live meeting like this, because people are professionals and this is a pain in the neck to have to take their time out just to, try to do a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's totally fair. I think that makes a lot of sense to me in person on request. We kind of started doing that a little bit last year anyways. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I know that, especially here in the Southeast community, there are many, many faith communities that make up the neighborhood, and we're definitely interested in connecting with those and finding ways to be, at the faith community as much as possible, to meet people where they're going anyways on Sundays and on the weekends, or on Wednesday nights or what have you.
Have you had any contact with the city council, for example, Newport News, the mayor? Has they said anything to you, what they would like to see monitoring this important stuff?
We have made the city council aware of the project. The mayor's office is also aware of the project. They did connect with us. His transition team did right when he took office earlier this year. So I do know that they're aware. And yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Come on, I know you're thinking something.
They lost audio briefly, but it's back now.
Oh, shoot.
That just came in.
That's not good. How long did you guys lose audio? Did you hear me say, I know you're thinking something? So we were talking, guys, I don't know what you missed. We were talking about online meetings maybe and in person on request, as community members would prefer. I will say another thing I like about this new format is it affords us the opportunity to kind of have an alternate route for people to view this information. So all of the exciting information was recorded and will go out after this meeting, this discussion. And so folks can review that and then tune back in and ask questions after the fact, but just give one of us a call. So I think that's also a great way to do this. And they will eventually go on YouTube as well. It'll just take a little bit longer. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Purely online might be very effective, because then that would give the line people, the online people, you'd probably be shooting the presenter as well as the occasionally the slides, and that would keep people more, online people more engaged.
That's a good point. I will say, so this nifty thing that we have here, it's called an owl. And that thing that you guys see on top is actually a 360-degree camera.
Oh, I see.
So it's following me, and then it's like Chuck was to say something, it's following you when you're talking. So it kind of like moves around the room.
You should have worn those.
Sorry. But it's a camera, like it's a hybrid meeting, and it's also a microphone and a speaker. So it also goes, woo-hoo, let me turn it on. Fun feature. Okay. I'm not going to belabor the point. One more call. Any thoughts about this? Any thoughts about future formats beyond what Tom has so astutely said, online, in person upon request? All right. Well, you guys know, as always, you're welcome to give me a call. Like I said earlier, this is not the end of the conversation. It's an ongoing conversation, and we're happy to keep having it. So don't hesitate if you have any thoughts later to shout them out. Do we have somebody who wants to say something?
We have a couple of hands that are raised.
Awesome. Yeah, if you guys have a hand raised and you want to unmute and give us your thoughts, please do.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Cindy. I might have missed it. I'm having a little trouble hearing, but what was since you all already have the air monitoring monitors out in the community, like what is the ask that you have of the community going forward as you continue the project?
So the air monitors are not yet in the community. Thank you for asking. That's a good point of clarification. And I'm going to move closer to the speaker so you guys can hear me better. These are the prospective sites for the monitors, and they are not yet placed in the community. So right now we're working through contracting and things like that to make sure that we'll be able to run power to these sites.
Okay. So are you still looking for sites, or is that just what you're proposing?
Those are what we are not looking for air monitoring sites any longer. Those are the 5 that we're proposing. I do want to clarify that we are looking for purple air sensor hosts, and those are separate things. So the purple air sensors are very small. Here, I'll be right back. Super small. And these guys are non-regulatory, but they give you real-time information about your air quality index and particulate matter concentrations. And all they require is a Wi-Fi connection and an outdoor power outlet. And anyone in the Southeast community or in Lambert's Point can contact me to request one to put it at their house or their business or anywhere that works in the community. Does that help clarify the difference there?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. What's up?
Can you put the monitor down a bit lower?
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. You guys see it? Cool. And if you visit our website, if you just Google TAME, TAME, it'll pull the Purple Air website right up. But you can also contact me and I'll make sure that you know where to access it. And it is accessible for residents 24/7. Do we have someone else with their hand raised? Let's see. Not seeing anyone.
That was
Is there
it, but there is a question in the chat.
I see it. Thank you, Gwen. I think I forgot to tell you guys, by the way, we have our lovely Gwendolyn McRae and Danielle Sims from the Environmental Justice Office on tonight with us as well. Gwen is our Northern Regional Coordinator and Danielle is our Program Manager at Central Office. So thank you guys so much. So Leroy Green said, is there a max limit on how many purple air sensors in the community you're looking for? Right now, we have 8 to deploy in each community. We have 3 out in each community right now, and they're not all live. We're working on some troubleshooting, but we have 3 out in the community. So we have 5 on hand for both communities right now. We do have some funding that we could possibly look at more purple air sensors if we can get those 8 out. And so we definitely have the possibility for it. So if you guys know of people who are interested, please don't hesitate to send them my way. I'm sure they might have some questions about it, and I'm happy to talk it through with them. Any other questions? Thoughts, comments? All right, well, I think I've belabored it enough. I know you guys are all busy Thursday night, so we will move forward. So for folks in the room, if you're interested, you're welcome to let me know that you would like to know a little bit more about DEQ EJ, and I can connect you with Danielle Sims, our program manager. There's some background project information in the back there, and there's also an opportunity to put some information on the wall there about the future meeting formats. Again, if you have any further exciting questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. This is an ongoing conversation. And this was my future meeting brainstorm. example, but I'm not sure we need it. And then here's my contact information. I hope most of you guys already have it, but if you don't, there it is. And please don't hesitate to reach out. We really, really are excited to have folks involved in the project. And we're really, really excited to hopefully come to the community on request. So with that, I am going to end the meeting. If you're online, I'll give it 5 more minutes in case you have a couple more questions. What's up, Sally?
Great. It looks like, yeah, it looks like we have a question from Sally.
Sure.
Hi,
Go ahead,
can you
Sally.
hear me?
Yes.
I have a question about the purple air sensors.
Sure.
So there's been a lot of research recently showing purple air sensors and similar types of sensors poorly measure PM10 and measure PM2.5 with high uncertainties. Instead, purple air sensors are really best for measuring PM1. So I was wondering how the TAME study validated the use of purple air sensors for measuring coal dust that is larger than PM1.
Certainly. I've seen similar type studies. We do know this, that purple air went through a pretty extensive process with the Environmental Protection Agency to create correlation equations with the PM 2.5 relative to a federal reference monitor and also a federal equivalent monitor that were both approved by EPA for use in air monitoring networks. And you can get that data off the purple air map, that is with the correlation applied to the data. In terms of PM 2.5 and PM 10, we know basically for PM 10, the purple air has a correlation coefficient of about 70%, so not the best. It's actually pretty good relative to the industry for those, but we have been looking into other potential sources of PM 10 information. As far as PM 2.5 is concerned, it does look like the purple airs in terms of the price and the level of accuracy and understanding of the data. That's probably about your best investment when you want to have a high density of sensors in an area like we want to do for this project. Does that address your questions?
To some extent. I mean, the algorithms that connect PM1 to PM10, those are mathematical, right? Not observational.
The understanding is right now, and if you go onto the Purple Air website, they will tell you that they use particle counting technology. So the answer to your question is the particle counters do have an optimum diameter in which they will give you information that's reflective of the different correlation effectiveness for each PM1, PM2.5, and PM10. So yes, there is some flexibility, so to speak, in the method they choose to use as their PM1, PM2.5, and PM10 monitoring technology. So does that get you where, you know, does that address your concerns?
And I think it should
Yeah,
be
thank you.
the purple air sensors are not regulatory. And it's an attempt to an attempt to give the community kind of a near real time. I think there's like a minute lag, so I won't say real time, but near real time opportunity to access air quality index data. And it does pull up, I think when you first pull it up, it's AQI at 2.5 based on EPA standards, just as an FYI for folks who might know.
And to be clear, the information we get from the purple air really is best for looking at trends rather than taking absolute readings and saying this is an absolute measure of the concentration in the hyperlocal space at that time. That's really what we want the community to use this for, is to look at the entire network, see what the readings are. Is it going up? Is it going down? That type of information, rather than using it like we would say data from an FRM or an FEM monitor, which has gone through the process through EPA, such that we can say that the data from those monitors versus sensors, those monitors are of a high enough quality to measure against national ambient air quality standards for whatever pollutant you're looking at. Again, have we addressed your concerns?
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Will the recording be posted on the DEQ website? Yes, it will be. It'll take a little lag time to get it posted on YouTube, but that's a great segue question. Thank you. What will happen is tomorrow, 24 hours from now, you'll receive a follow-up email. And that follow-up email will have this recording attached to it. If you didn't register for the webinar and you want to watch that recording anyways, all you have to do is use that same registration link, register, and it'll pop you right onto the recording. So if anybody wants to see it more immediately, you can do it that way. And then it will also go onto the DEQ website, just like all of the meetings last year. And also I should mention that as part of that follow-up email, you will also receive a survey. It's a feedback survey to let us know how the meeting went, how you think we can do better, and what we can improve on in the future. And if you wouldn't mind taking the time, we would really, really, really appreciate your feedback. Any other questions before we end tonight? One in the audience, perfect.
Okay, now, the experience of the Department of Environmental Quality in working with similar data. Problem here is these mechanical disturbances dropping the coal generates large particles. The large particles they have heavy metals, and the heavy metals are the big threat to health in this area. Presumably, you've done this with PM10 monitors previously, and there's been some mass spec analysis. How have things turned out in these experiences by DEQ?
Okay, well, so first of all, the reason for selecting PM10 as the precursor to the metals analysis that we're going to be doing. EPA has a program, it's the National Air Toxics Trend Site Program. And they require, their method for that uses PM10, right? And that PM10 then is analyzed for metals. That's why we chose PM10 for this test, to make it consistent with EPA methodology and other sites around the country, okay? The methodology, once you get to the lab and they do the metals, they use what's called ICP-MS, inductively coupled plasma mass spectroscopy. Okay, so yes, that is the methodology, and that is how that is done for all the sites across the country that are part of the NATS program. There are some other sites individually that may not be using the ICP-MS, but ICP-MS is the current methodology used by most of the sites across the country. It's what we use, and that that is how we are able to then take this data, which we will do, and compare against other sites, both in Virginia and in the surrounding states. Does that get to your question?
Do you have an example of how you found something really threatening in a particular area?
I think threatening is a difficult word to put definition to, but I can say this.
Possibly troubles.
Okay, well, we have two sites in Virginia that we now use and do metals analysis. All right, there's one in Hopewell, and there is one at our Richmond site, the NATS site. We did an extensive study in the city of Hopewell. All right, and in that case, we were able to take the metals data, and we did actually a scan of all the toxics. That would be volatile toxics, carbonyls, toxics, and metals. And so, yes, we have taken data, looked at that data, right, evaluated it. And the reason we still have a monitoring site in Hopewell is every 3 years, the health department looks at that data again to determine if there's any deterioration in the air quality in Hopewell. based on what we got from our original study in the 2011 timeframe. So yes, we have a great deal of experience looking at data.
Leroy in the chat said, can the data collected be used for an emissions inventory report? I'm gonna let Chuck answer that, but I will just clarify the data is public information.
Yeah, we're not getting specific emissions information from specific sources. This is ambient information. That is, what is the concentration in the air that we're breathing? So we won't use this for an emissions inventory per se. We are doing, as part of this project, we'll be doing qualitative analysis of some of our samples. And when I say qualitative, that means a microscopic look to get an idea of what the components of the particles are. But that isn't quantitative, that's only a qualitative evaluation. But that information is actually good in helping us determine how to move forward with a lot of this data once we've gathered the data from each one of these sites, or once we've begun gathering data from each one of these sites. So does that get to your question?
Yes, thanks, Leroy. Any other questions, thoughts? All right, folks, I am going to go ahead and call it there. Like I said, please feel free to reach out. Please feel free to continue to ask questions. You guys have my contact information up right now. It's also listed on the TAME website. Don't hesitate to reach out. We're really interested in continuing the conversation. And thank you so much for your time tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Hope everybody has a lovely evening. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.